Hi, my name is Prumihimo. Welcome to the Prumihimo channel. Today what I'd like to show you is a braid made on the square plate. Now I always think that the square plate is rather underused. A lot of people have them and say they don't use them very much. And I think this is often because they have problems with the tension and they find it difficult to produce a braid with straight sides. So my aim in this video is just to pass on a few simple tricks and tips that work for me and have made me realise just what a valuable tool this square plate is. So this particular braid, I'm going to show you how to make it with 10 cords. It has a zigzag pattern on the actual braid, and its construction is interesting because it's actually constructed on the diagonal. And by that I mean if I hold my disc up, you can see that it's not coming straight down, it's coming out at an angle. So it's important to be aware of this so that you're not trying to pull the braid down when really it wants to go out at the side, because that will automatically affect your tension. What I'm using on this is satin cord. This is 1mm satin cord, and I recommend that for flat braids, for practice particularly, because again it's all about getting that tension right, and the slippery surface of satin cord does mean that it slides into position very nicely. So that's my recommendation. Once you've got the hang of it, you can try virtually anything to make a flat braid. So this braid, you may also have come across it called the andagumi. That's the Japanese name for it. And I'm going to show you how to make it in two different colorways. I find you need to keep the colors pretty simple on this braid or they can look a bit jumbled. So I'm going to show you one with just a simple diagonal. I'll show you a close-up in a minute, and another with slightly wider stripes on it. So this is the braid that we're going to make. It is a 10 cord braid, and if we look at what I've got on my plate here, I've got 2 cords of a contrast colour and I've got the other 8 cords in a background colour, and that gives me this sort of thin zigzag up the braid. Now this is exactly the same construction, but here I have 4 cords of the contrast colour and 6 of the background colour. That still gives me the zigzag but in a wider band. And you can play around with different colours and get different effects, but I do find that for this particular braid, the more simple colour combinations work best. So I'll remove that, and now we can look a little bit more closely at the disc. So what I've got is I've got 4 cords on the top, 4 on the bottom, and 1 on each side. And these ones are in the uppercase E and lowercase e slots. Now your disc might have different numbers or letters or symbols down the side, so don't worry about the actual numbers, look more at the actual pattern. And what I've got here is I'm using the slots that are level with the top of that central rectangular hole, because I want my braid to stay up at the top there, and that is one of my tips for getting good tension. I've put, for your contrast colours, you want the corresponding colour on top and bottom. So on the previous example I showed you where I had 4 cords of contrast colour, I had 2 next door to each other on the top and corresponding down below. So let's get started. And a lot of these moves are going to seem very similar to moves that you may have done for other braids, but it's the subtle differences that make this braid different. So we're going to start with the top left, and we simply bring that cord down to the bottom left. Now pick up the next door cord on the bottom and quite simply bring it up to the top, that slot that was just been vacated. Now we move across to the top to its neighbour and bring that down to the empty slot on the bottom. Pick up the next door cord, up to the empty slot. pick up the extra next door cord, down to the empty slot. Pick up the next door cord, up to the empty slot. Pick up the final next door cord, down to the empty slot. Pick up the final next door cord and up to the empty slot. Now move round to your cord on the right hand side and bring it down to that slot there, just the slot next door to your cords on the bottom. Now move to your other cord on the other side and bring this across to the slot, the empty slot now, the one you've vacated. And now finally, you take the bottom cord on the left hand side, bring it up to the top and put it into that slot. And those are your moves. Your cords are back in the same position. Now I'm going to take you through them again, giving a little bit more explanation on tension. So our moves from top to bottom, we need to make sure we pull in exactly the same way. If you pull harder on some than others, you will end up with an even surface to the braid. So let's do our moves from top to bottom. Remember, we're working from left to right, quite simply going up and down until the end. So we start with our top left, down to the bottom. And I move up, trying to make sure that this move, I'm pulling just as hard as I did before. All these, get a nice regular rhythm going. This is the key to this braid. Rhythm and feeling how hard you're moving those cords. So I'm doing those up-down movements, trying to get a nice rhythm, trying to do them all the same. Now I come to this move and I simply move it to the bottom. Now this move is absolutely crucial. This is the move really that governs the sides of the braid, particularly the left-hand side. So you want to make sure that you're pulling this up the same way each time. And if you don't, you'll get a bumpy side. So this is something that takes practice, but knowing that this is the crucial cord will help you. So I'm going to bring it across. I'm just going to make sure it's tight. Bring it to that slot that I've just vacated on the side. And now it's the final move. Now you may notice this is moving down a little bit from this top of the slot, which is where I said I wanted to be. And that is why when we do our final move here, which is taking the far left cord on the bottom, this is why if you bring it up and just pull up so that you can see I'm pulling the whole braid back up to the top of the slot, and then I pull it across. And those are the things that will make a difference to your braid. All you need to do is keep repeating those moves. So get into the rhythm of it and try to be as regular as possible. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is whether to use a weight or not. And this is a personal matter. Some people may wish to use a weight, some people may not. But don't forget that the braid is coming out at the side. So what you don't want to do is have the braid pulled down like that by your weight. So if you wish to use a weight, you need to attach it very close to your braid as it forms and keep moving it up. So you need a clip-on weight. That is how I tend to use it because I find that gives me a really even pull on the braid. But after every 2 sequences of moves, I move it up because I know that if I let it get to that point, it's going to pull the braid out of position. If you don't wish to use a weight, just make sure that you are holding the braid in this position. So you're pulling it at the correct angle, the angle it wishes to go in. And that quite simply is how you make your braid. If you, the quantities you will need, probably 2 to 2.5 times the finished length of braid is needed for each cord. And with finishing off, if you wish to make it into a bracelet, I've got some great ideas in my new book, Kumihimo Endings, which can be found on my website, prumihimo.com, and you will find a link in the details below this video. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. And remember, practice makes perfect, and that's particularly true of tension. So don't be disheartened if when you start it's still looking a bit sort of wonky. Just keep on, get into the rhythm of it, and you will find that the tension will start to sort itself out. So really give it the practice it deserves, and then you're going to be able to really enjoy this fantastic braid. And if you want to know other ways that you can use your square disc, square plate, whatever you want to call it, I do have other videos for different types of construction. So if you look in the instructions below, you'll see links to those videos. So I hope you'll enjoy those too. And I've got more coming up. So this is a very versatile tool. I've got lots of other ideas of how it can be used, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you.